You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Well, guys, I wake up this morning and I see that Stephen A. Smith is highly ticked off with Jason Whitlock. Now, we know that Stephen A. Smith is not a fan of Jason Whitlock. I mean, he has called Jason Whitlock a fat bastard months ago. We actually did videos on that. But guys, this time, man, Stephen A. Smith has completely lost it on Jason Whitlock. Now, Stephen A. actually has a book that's come out, his memoirs. And Jason Whitlock believes that it's full of fabrications and lies. And for some reason, guys, Stephen A. is highly ticked off with Jason Whitlock. I mean, it got so bad, guys. He started talking about Jason Whitlock on First Take. I mean, it's astonishing, man. And then he goes on to his podcast and he has a full podcast slamming Jason Whitlock. I mean, he is super triggered, guys. Super triggered. I mean, Jason Whitlock has broken Stephen A. Smith. What else can I say? Stephen A. Smith is broken now, man. Jason Whitlock has broken this man. I mean, he is really going off, man. He even called Jason Whitlock a fat bastard on First Take on ESPN. But he really went off on his own podcast. Now, his podcast is not associated with ESPN. So he just went off, cursing up a storm. I mean, he was highly ticked off, guys. So we're going to be diving into all that in this video, guys. First, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, become a channel member. Member live stream every single Friday. Just starts at $5 per month. And tomorrow's Friday, so we're going to have our live stream. So here we go, guys. And I got a lot of things pulled up here, man, because there's going to be multiple clips here we're going to be looking at. But it says Jason Whitlock responds to limited Stephen A. Smith after ESPN host called him fat bastard. That's worse than a white supremacist. Okay, so like I said, Stephen A. is highly triggered by Jason Whitlock actually calling his book a bunch of lies and fabrications, because allegedly in the book, man, Stephen A. Smith made 17 straight three-pointers, and then all of a sudden he got a full scholarship to Winston-Salem State. Whitlock is not buying that. So this is a little bit here of what Stephen A. Smith actually said here. Let's play it.
You betrayed me. Did you tell the folks that? You bitch. Did you tell them? You fat piece of shit. Did you tell them that? Got the names. We got Jamel Hill. We got Howard Bryant. You want me to bring up the other writers that would have?
Wow. So he called him a bitch in addition to being a fat bastard. Wow. But we got more here. And I believe Whitlock actually posted this and directed it at Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, and says, could you imagine being a journalist covering the sports media and the highest profile guy at ESPN writes a book full of fabrications and exaggerations, and you're too afraid to address the fact that the guy spent an hour cussing and name calling and never addressing any of the obvious questions about the truth of his memoir? Get off your knees at Andrew Marchand. Yeah. Apparently, Stephen A. never actually addressed any of the criticisms that Whitlock had. He was just going off and just slamming Jason Whitlock like crazy. He couldn't stop. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Stephen A. Smith melt down like this. Even to the point he actually addresses it on First Take. Now, we got a little bit more here, too. And, man, he is very triggered, man. So let's go ahead and play this clip here. This is actually Stephen A. on his podcast right here. Let's play this.
Jason Whitlock. I said that name. It's not a name I've uttered. I normally don't do that, but it's necessary to do now. I've had enough of that fat bastard. That piece of shit. And I want to make sure that before I go to break, I want anyone out there who watches me, anyone out there who knows me, anyone out there, no matter what you think of me, I want you to remember, I never talk about him. I never talk about my colleagues. I don't do that. This is a first. But it's necessary. And when I say don't talk about them, I don't mean don't talk about them literally. I don't get in on them like I'm about to do now. I literally called my pastor and asked for his forgiveness and understanding in advance because he's not going to recognize the person he's about to hear. I did the same when I emailed the bosses at ESPN. This is my podcast. I own and operate this. I do what I want on this podcast. But it doesn't mean that I still don't harbor a responsibility to at least give my daytime employers a heads up as to what I'm about to do. My sisters, my nieces and nephews, my boys in the industry, everybody that I could reach out to in time has been warned. It's time for me to address this. I'm only going to do it once. Because this bastard is worth less than a damn cockroach. He wanted my attention. He's got it.
So right there, man, Stephen A, man, can't handle it. It's so bad, guys, that he actually has to address it even on First Take. Now, this is a clip here from Jason Whitlock's show, and he's going to be reacting to Stephen A melting down on First Take. And it's so bad, man, that even Molly and like Shannon are like, hey, you going to really let this guy, Jason Whitlock, bother you? Now, of course, he doesn't name Jason Whitlock here, but we need to listen into Whitlock here reacting to Stephen A. Let's roll it.
Stephen A. Smith is the sports example of what Cat Williams was talking about in that interview with Shannon Sharpe. And I walked you through some of the lies, distortions, exaggerations that are found in Stephen A.'s book that just raise all kinds of questions about, like, what's he doing with his narrative? Who would print these lies? Who would write these lies and or exaggerations? Who thinks these stories pass the smell test? That, you know, in February of '88, this guy drives down to North Carolina and has a one-day tryout with a Division II basketball team at the end of their regular season, knocks down 17 straight three-pointers, and the coach, Big House Gaines, on the spot offers him a full ride basketball scholarship. Who sells that? Who believes that? What person, any familiarity with sports, would buy that? So I've been talking about that, and I went into some detail about it. Well, Stephen A. Smith, the day after the national championship game, on First Take this morning, lost his discipline and issued a couple of responses, or took a couple of pot shots at me. I want to play the first one where he's talking to, I believe, Shannon Sharpe. Let's watch this clip.
I want to remind the world, this is Stephen A, baby. I'm not running from anybody. And if somebody is going to misquote me, usually I'm going to make an effort to set the record straight. Now, there are some people, as Shannon constantly reminds me, that deserve to be ignored. There are people in the media, fat bastards to be specific, who are completely irrelevant.
Right there, man. Jason Whitlock. Now, of course, Jason Whitlock threw his own picture in there. Of course, that wasn't no First Take.
and are starving for attention because all they have left is clicks because their credibility has been shredded everywhere else. And those people are left to be dealt with another day. But
so that is Stephen A. On First Take, calling me fat bastard once again, talking with Shannon Sharpe. He's upset. He's originally talking about Draymond Green. And I believe he is suggesting that Draymond Green has taken him out of context in some criticism. And Stephen A. starts talking about, that he would, the back end of that clip that we didn't show you is he says that he would be willing to sit down and interview with people as long as they contextualized what he had to say properly. And so I think he's insinuating that Draymond Green has taken him out of context, and by lumping me in, fat bastard, he's saying that I've taken him out of context, and he's also trying to say to people that I'm going to ignore Jason Whitlock because Shannon Sharpe and the people at ESPN have said, hey man, Whitlock's way outside your weight class, don't fight him. But Stephen A., loves to do this tough guy routine. Stephen A., I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm from Hollis, Queens. and so that's Stephen A. posturing as a tough guy and justifying why I'm not going to respond to the things Jason Whitlock is saying. This is a forced comment where, Stephen A. is frustrated because people over social media and other places are asking legitimate questions about, like, hey, man, Whitlock raised some interesting points about what was written in your alleged memoir. He then, at another point in the conversation, cries on Molly Karam's shoulder this morning. Play the clip.
Now, I believe this is where Molly and Shannon kind of like, why are you even worried about this?
one other thing, there are people out there lying and actually putting out there that I didn't write my book. I can assure you, so help me God, I wrote my book. It's my memoir. It's my life story. I wasn't leaving that in the hands of
would you
other
ignore people? You wrote for a living. You were a columnist for many
Yeah, even Molly saying, why don't you just ignore Jason Whitlock?
years. Don't even don't even acknowledge
I'm just
that.
saying. I'm just saying. You just.
Yeah, you're better than that. Let's go.
Let's
go.
No, you can acknowledge it. It's okay. You just point out how they're lying.
And I know exactly who you're talking about. But why does it bother him? You're not going to buy the book. You're not going to read the book. So why do you care? You spend so much time. People spend so much time worrying about other people and what they're doing in their lives. If you realize how little people actually cared about you, you start worrying about them.
Yeah. Listen, people lie about me all the time. I like God.
So at some, Molly throws in, she lets God fight her battles, and Stephen A. did as well. Shannon, I would like to correct you. I did buy the book.
Oh.
I did read the book. I've read books and done review of books throughout my career as a journalist. And so I understand that a lot of these ex-athletes that have success in the media don't understand journalism and don't understand what journalists do.
Okay, I'm going to leave it right there, guys. Man, that is a lot right there, man. Stephen A. Smith, I believe the full episode of his podcast is like 45, 50 minutes, hour, something like that. And he absolutely loses it. Loses it. I mean, he is so triggered by one man, Jason Whitlock, calling him out saying, hey, I don't believe this BS, man. You got a scholarship. You made 17 straight 3-pointers at a Division II school. And I believe also he had called him out also as well because apparently Stephen A. Smith averaged like 1.5 points per game in college, but he only played one game. Yeah, that math right there doesn't add up. Just throwing it out there. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and White Sports fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.